Okay, good evening, everyone. So today we will start with the basics, like before directly getting into the cloud computing. So first we will try to understand how the companies will maintain their infrastructure, because that is what exactly we are going to create in the cloud, right? So for that reason, today we will try to understand how a data center will be maintained if that is not in the cloud. So like we will try to understand like what is a server client technology, what is a server, what is a client, how they are able to communicate with each other. Okay, so those things we will try to understand. So if you go for any company and for some time, just for our understanding purpose, assume that there is no cloud. Assume that there is no cloud. Then every server and every service must be maintained within the office itself, right? And they will maintain all the servers in a room called a server room. Technically, we can call that as a data center. The data center is a place where all the servers and services will be maintained. And if you have like multiple servers and they should be communicated with each other, let us say you are trying to host a simple website. So that website must be accessible from anywhere across the globe. And you have to provide the security. You need to maintain some kind of internet connectivity, and we need to maintain the high availability, right? For all these things, what are the components required? So we will go one by one. What exactly the meaning of a server? First, let us start with the term called server. What is a server? In general, no need of any technical definition or something. Whatever you know about the server, just you can tell me that in a simple words. Okay, so forget about this IT or cloud or whatever it is. In general, where we can use the name called server or the term called server. Whoever is providing the service, we can call him as a server, right? Client means. So whoever is utilizing the services, they are called as a client. If you go for any kind of a IT network, there will be a server and a client. Just for an example, every day we are accessing a lot of websites, right? Each and every website will be hosted on a computer. That is called as a server. It is providing you a service called a website. And I am going to access the website using my laptop, right? So that is called as a client. Do you guys know, even in the operating systems, there are server operating systems and client operating systems. With the help of the server operating system, we can provide the services. With the help of a client operating system, we can utilize the services provided by the server. Can you guys name some client operating systems? Client operating systems. Let us take the example of Windows. In Windows, we have server operating systems and client operating systems. In the earlier example, I called my laptop as client because I cannot provide services using my laptop. Just I can utilize the services available in the market. That's why I'm calling this as a client. So the best example for the client operating system is whatever the operating system running in my computer, right? So in general, for every home purpose, we will use a Windows 7, Windows 10, and Windows 11. These are the best examples for the client operating systems. If we go from the top to bottom, like latest to oldest, the first one is Windows 11. That is the latest one. And before that, we have a Windows 10. And before that, we have Windows 7. Do you guys know any other client operating systems before Windows 7? Windows Vista, XP, then Millennium. Okay, that is before like Vista and after XP. Okay, Millennium, Windows Millennium. Then any other? 98, Windows 98, Windows 95. Before that, Windows NT, and before that, there is a DOS. I think most of the people, most of you guys don't see like Windows 95 or 98, right? I think you guys might start from like Vista or Millennium or something. Even I doubt you guys, I don't know like whether you have seen the XP or not. But everybody knows about Windows 7, 10, 11, right? So in the same way, do you guys know any server operating systems? Server operating systems? Even in the Windows itself, we have server operating systems. The one is like Windows Server 2019. And before that, we have Windows Server 2016, Windows Server 2012, and then we have 2008. Before that, we have a 2003, and then NT versions. But now this 2008 is not available. That is obsolete. There is no support provided. And even for 2012 also, in the next coming few years, Amazon don't provide any support or any security. And I think the latest one is a 2022, which is not yet in use. Very few people are testing it, but 2019 and 2016, they are most popular server operating system under Windows category. Even if you go for the Linux, there are desktop like client versions and the server operating systems. What are the different Linux operating systems you guys know? Linux, CentOS, Ubuntu, Fedora. What about the Mac? Is it a Linux or not? Mac operating system. Is it a flavor of Linux? Linux itself is a Unix flavor, right? Mac also built on the Unix. That is not a Windows base. So Red Hat Enterprise Linux, RHEL, CentOS, Ubuntu, right? Fedora, Debian. There are n number of Linux flavors available. There are n number of Linux flavors available. But if you know any of the Linux commands, the same commands will work in each and every Linux operating system. Let us say if you would like to open a file, there will be a command called cat or vi. The same command will work in Red Hat Enterprise Linux, CentOS, Ubuntu, Fedora, in anywhere. And I think like Naresh IT is providing you the Linux, complete Linux administration along with this AWS. So at least you have to know the basic commands. Like, let us say if you start working for a company, if they are using some Linux machines, at least you have to know how to open a file, create a file, or if they ask you to install some software, you need to know what commands to execute, right? At least some basic commands you must know about the Linux. So we have different versions of operating systems available, and we don't know which operating system will be used by the companies. But if you know any of the Linux, the same commands will be used for all the Linux flavors. If you take the example of Ubuntu, have you ever seen the Ubuntu desktop? That looks like the same as a Windows, but you cannot install the Windows softwares. But that looks like same as a Windows. You can get a graphical user interface. You can install some media players. You can install some games like how you install in the Windows. Everything will work in the same way. So this is about the server operating systems and client operating systems. Now, let us take a simple example. There is a very small company and they have like, let us say, 10 employees, and they are maintaining 3 or 4 servers. 3 or 4 servers, and there are only 5 employees. So every employee require some laptop or desktop, right? How they will maintain all these machines in a network and how they will provide the services. So first thing, they are going to maintain a server room, right? So for database, they will maintain one server. Some application, they will maintain some kind of a server, and one more server for some kind of a file sharing or something. So every server is nothing but a normal computer with high-end resources. Like my laptop will have a CPU, memory, storage, motherboard, all these things, right? The server also contains the same thing, but the family will be different. So what is the CPUs we can see in our laptops? Let us say you are planning to buy an Intel CPU. What is the first thing you can check in the CPU? Whether is it a i3 or i5 or i7, right? But if you go for the server level, they do have Xeon processor, quad core octa-core, hexa-core. Like they are like more powerful than a normal laptops or desktops. Okay, so all these servers will be maintained in a server in a server room. Let us say this is the server room of a company. So here they are going to maintain 3 different servers. The purpose might be anything. We don't care about the purpose as of now. They have 3 servers. And I told you that the company is having 5 employees. So all the 5 people will have some kind of 5 laptops. Or for understanding purpose, let us say only 2 employees. They do have 2 laptops. Now here, one is a database server, one is some kind of application server, and one is some kind of file server, like the place where they can store all the data. Whatever the name itself, we don't care about that. Now we are trying to understand how these computers are able to communicate with all your servers and services. Now let us say that employee 1 has to log into the computer 1. How they will log in? How they can log in? Username and password. Where is that username and password? Database, where? Generally, we don't call it as a database. Generally, if you would like to log into your laptop, you will have a username and password and you can log in, right? And you would like to share your computer with someone else. Then what do? Do you share your username and password? Yes, but that's not a good idea. We should not share your username and password. You go for any company, they never use a common credentials for multiple people. Like if they create a username called username and password called password, if they ask the same username and password to be used by multiple people, they cannot track which user is doing what kind of a things. So every user must require their own username and password. So if coming back to your previous example, if you would like to share access to myself in your laptop, you have to create a separate user account for myself in your laptop, right? By using that username and password, I can log into your laptop only. Using those credentials, I cannot log into any other laptop or desktop. But if you go for the companies, here they do have 3 different servers along with the laptop. The user must require some kind of access on all these 3 servers also. What does that mean? The user must require access to these 3 servers, which is only possible by providing a username and password. But we never share the common credentials, and whatever the username and password we create on the computer 1, it won't work. In that case, what these organizations will do is they will maintain a centralized user database. Have you ever heard about Active Directory? Active Directory, which is a Microsoft product. Or have you heard about like LDAP? Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. What is that is, it will maintain the centralized location or centralized database for the user accounts. The most popular such kind of user database is Active Directory Domain Services. What they do is, they will maintain one server here and they will call it as Active Directory. Active Directory. And they created usernames here, user 1, user 2, because we have 2 people, right? And our goal is to allow these 2 users should be able to log in to all the machines in your office. So what it is, whenever the user is trying to log into the computer 1, whenever he enter the username and password, the password is validated against this Active Directory server. Or I will give you one more simple example. Everybody is using some kind of mail server, right? I think 99% will have a Gmail. So how to log into the Gmail? You will open a browser, you will enter the email ID and password. Then the Gmail will check whether the entered username and password is correct or not. How they will check, or where exactly they will check? Do they maintain your username and password in your laptop? No. In the Google's office, they will maintain a server, and there they will maintain a database, and they will maintain the list of usernames and passwords. Whenever you enter the username and password in your browser, that username and password will be sent to the database, and there it will validate your username and password is correct or not. If the entered password is correct, then you will be allowed to log in. In the same way here, whatever the username and password we enter, that has to be validated in this particular server. How the request will send? That means this computer must be able to communicate with the server. Communication. How the communication is possible? If I have one laptop here, and if you have one more laptop, our two laptops are able to communicate with each other or not? No. Or let us say you purchase one mobile phone. Can you use that mobile phone directly to make a call or receive the call? No, you must need some kind of a communication with the help of a SIM card or something. With the help of a mobile number, you will be able to make a call. In the same way, in this, the communication is possible with the help of a network. What is a network? What is the meaning of a network? Interconnection of two or more devices. That means if you connect two or more devices together, we call that as a network. How the devices will be connected with each other? There are some kind of network devices. You can connect using the cable, or you can connect using the Wi-Fi also. You have a single Wi-Fi device at your home, and you can connect your laptops, multiple mobile phones, right? That is also a network, but we call it as home network. In that kind of a network, you are using the Wi-Fi router as a networking device, which is required to connect multiple devices together. Here, they will use a kind of a device called switch. In the olden days, they do have some kind of a devices called hub, but now no one is using those hubs because the network transmission is very slow, and now everybody is using the switches. In the switches also, we have a different types of switches available: managed switches, unmanaged switches, but we don't need those details. That is completely into the network administration. So that network administration will be available. I think in the olden days, we used to have a course called CCNA. How many of you guys know about that? Cisco Certified Network Associate. Do you guys know Cisco? What is that Cisco? That is a company which provides the networking devices like switches, routers, VPN devices, firewalls. Everything related to the network security will be provided by a company called Cisco. There are a lot of companies available. Juniper, like something 40Gate. There are Netgear. There are different types of companies available. Out of those, Cisco is one of the popular company. So here, by using the switch, this switch will have some kind of a ports. Like if you see the extension box, what is that extension box? Like if you would like to connect multiple electrical devices, and in your home you have only single power socket, what we do? We will use some kind of an extension device where you will get 1 into 5. Using a single socket, you can get like 4 sockets or 8 sockets. So you can connect all your devices to that particular extension box. In the same way, these switches will come in 4-port switch, 8-port, 16-port, 32-port, 128-port, like that. 128-port means it will have 128 ports. By using the cable, we can connect all the devices like this. And your computer will have a port called network port. Network port. Have you ever observed? Unfortunately, my laptop doesn't have the port because it doesn't support the physical cables. I have to connect using the Wi-Fi. Or have you ever seen the landline phones, the where we can connect the cable? The same type of the port you can get in your computer, but this is somewhat bigger. The landline phones will have a smaller one, which is called as RJ11 port. But in the computers, we will have RJ45 port. RJ45 port. And we will connect the RJ45 cable into that particular cable. You can get the cables in the market. Even if you observe the router, you can see some 4 ports, right? That is what exactly the network port. Also, we can call it as network interface card. Network port, network interface card, RJ45 port, LAN port, everything is the same. Different people will use different names. Okay, so I connected all the devices together. Are they able to communicate with each other? If you connect all the devices together, are their computers able to communicate with each other? No. The same example, you got your mobile phone and you inserted some SIM card. Does it work? Assume that the SIM card is not yet activated. That means you don't have any mobile number, right? So what it requires some kind of an address, or you would like to send an email to your friend. What exactly you need? You must have a valid email address and you need your friend's email address. Without having those, you cannot send an email, right? With the help of the email address, we are able to communicate over electronic mail. In the same way, in the network, every communication is possible with the help of IP address. Have you ever heard about IP address? Do you know how IP address looks like? We have a separate session on the IP address to understand about IP version 4. There are 2 different types of versions available. Before starting the VPC concept, we will discuss about what is this IP address, what is the structure, and what is the range. Like, can I use an IP address like 1000 dot, 2000 dot, 3000 like that? No. There must be some range. How that range got defined, everything we can discuss in that IP address. But here, to establish the communication, you must require an IP address for every computer. In this IP address, we have 2 types of an IP address available. Do you guys know what are those 2 types? Public IP and private IP. Public IP and private IP. What is the use of the public IP and private IP? First, what is the meaning of a public? What is the meaning of a public? All access. Private, like a restricted access, right? Okay. So the public IPs can be used to communicate with any network. If your system, if your computer is having a public IP, your computer will be accessible from anywhere across the globe. Do you guys know what is an internet? Everybody is using the internet, right? What is that internet connection means? Your internet service provider will give you one public IP address, and the public IP address will be allocated or assigned to your Wi-Fi router. It has an inbuilt modem. Because of that public IP, we are able to communicate with the internet. With the public IPs, we can enable the communication from anywhere across the globe. Whereas the private IPs are intended for internal communication. And the IP addresses must be unique. So there must be some organization who is going to take care of the IP addresses to be unique, right? If you go for the mobile numbers, even the mobile numbers are also unique. Who will take care of that uniqueness? Especially in India, there is an organization called TROI, right? Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. They will maintain all the mobile numbers to be unique. No mobile number will be given to 2 different people. So to maintain that uniqueness, even for the IP address also, there is an organization, and the public IPs are chargeable. If you need a public IP, you need to request and they will allocate you the public IP and they will charge you on a monthly basis. Whereas the private IPs are intended for internal communication. Like earlier I said that your home is your home network, right? all the computers within your home are able to communicate with each other with the help of private IP. Now the question, how to identify if someone gave you the IP address, how to identify that the IP address is a private IP or a public IP? By seeing the number, we can identify. Basically, the IP address looks like, the format will be x dot x dot x dot x. That is the format. X means any value from 0 to 255. That we can discuss why 0 to 255, why not like from 0 to 1000 and all the things. The format will be like this. So now coming to the private IP address, the private, if you see any IP address in this format like 10 dot x, x and x, that will be a private IP. And then the next one is 172.16.x.x up to 172.31.x.x. That means 172.16, 172.17, 172.18 up to 31. All ranges are private IP. If any IP start with these numbers, that is a private IP. And finally, 192.168.x.x. These are the private IP addresses. Apart from this, all other IP addresses are public IP addresses. Okay, so here to establish the communication, every computer requires an IP address. Let us say here I can assign 10.0.0.1. This is a private IP address because it starts with 10, free to use, and you can create your home network. Just for understanding purpose, we are giving the IP addresses. Later we can discuss in detail about how to identify the same network, different network, and all the things. Now all this network is able to communicate with each other, right? And what they do is they will maintain one more switch like this, and they will connect these two, and all your desktops will be connected to that switch also. Then only these computers are able to communicate with your data center. This is a server room. In general, we call it as a server room, and technically we call this as a data center. Technically, we call it as a data center. Whenever you are maintaining the server room, you have to be very careful with the security. So in your office, you have to provide the internet, right? But without having a public IP, we cannot share, we cannot provide the internet. That doesn't mean that they will get public IP for all the computers. They do maintain some kind of a devices which can share the internet with all your local network. That's what your Wi-Fi router is doing. This is my laptop, right? So if I go to the command prompt and there is a command called ipconfig, what it is it will show you the IP address of your Windows computer. So what is the IP address here? What is the IP address? 192.168. Is it a private IP or a public IP? Private IP. But how I am getting the internet? How I am able to get the internet? Because earlier I said that without having a public IP, we cannot access the internet. Because my laptop got connected to a Wi-Fi router, which has a service called NAT, Network Address Translation. What it will do is, it will share the internet. That concept we will cover in our VPC topic. Because in the network, we need to share the internet, right? At that time, we will cover what it is. And you can see here, there is one default gateway, and the IP address is something like 192.168.22.1. That is my Wi-Fi router's IP address. So if I would like to communicate with the internet, I will take the help of the default gateway and I am able to communicate with the internet. So in the companies also, they need to maintain a NAT, a server which can share the internet. So this will have a public IP address. Whenever you have a public IP address, your server will be exposed to the internet, right? Whenever you have a public IP, your server will be accessible from anywhere across the globe. Anybody can communicate. They might not be able to log in, but they can see that there is a server running with so-and-so public IP. And security is our responsibility. So how the security will be provided? How the security will be provided? So every company will use some kind of firewalls. What is a firewall? A kind of a gateway or a gate which will decide whether the traffic to be allowed or denied. So we have to create some rules. If the request is coming from so-and-so IP address, allow it. Or if the request is coming only to access the website, allow it. Or if the request is coming to log into the server, deny that particular request. That kind of rules will be available in the firewall. And sometimes some people, your employees might work from home, right? During this COVID, every company provided the work from home. And all these servers are accessible only if that user or employee is in your office only, because all your servers are having only the private IP. How these people are able to access your servers from home? Because home is a different network and your office is a different network. By default, no two networks will not be able to communicate, especially using the private IP address. Using the private IP, you cannot communicate with a different network. I think yesterday's example, intercoms. What is the use of an intercom? What we can do using, if you go for the apartments or gated community, they do have some intercom phones, right? What we can do with the intercoms? Are we able to make a call to mobile phone or a landline or something? No, you cannot. You can communicate within your building only, because intercoms only supported in that particular box only. Whatever the phones connected to that particular intercom box, only they are able to communicate. They do have them some special numbers, right? 3-digit number or a 4-digit number. That's how they configure. In the same way, the private IP addresses are only used to communicate within the same network only. But now, how the employees from the home are able to access all your servers? They do have some kind of a devices called VPN devices. What is the VPN? What is the meaning of a VPN? Virtual private network. What it will do? What it will do? Change location. That means physically you will not be changed. What will happen there is that VPN server. I think recently, like few years back, Indian government banned some applications and some games, right? But still few people are able to manage to download the things by using the VPN. What they do is they will connect to a VPN server or a VPN which is in a different country. So whatever the request they send, that will be initiated from that particular country, not from India. It will be masked with a different IP address which belongs to US or some other countries. That's how they will be able to manage. That means physically the person is in the same location, but the request will be sending from a different network. So the VPN is a kind of a virtual private network which will allow the users to access your local network from anywhere across the globe. So the VPN device will be there. VPN device will be there. So VPN configuration we have to do, right? And the VPN network, routers, everything will be maintained by the network administrators. Firewall is related to the security. VPN is related to the remote access. We can allow the users to log into the office from a remote location. And then whenever we talk about the network, your network might have different sub networks. Like one network is to maintain the testing servers. One network is to maintain some kind of a production servers, right? They will maintain two different networks. And I said that no two different networks are able to communicate with each other. But how those two networks are able to communicate? In that case, they will maintain a device called router. What exactly the router will do is, the router will establish the communication between two different networks. Router will establish the communication between two different networks. Now, coming back to the concept of internet. Internet is the combination of multiple networks, right? My home is one network, your home is another network, and Google's network is another network, Yahoo network. But with the help of internet, we are able to communicate with each and every network because of public IP address. So whenever you have a public IP, the public IPs also belongs to some networks. They do have some networks. How the public IPs are communicate or accessible is, all the public IP addresses are redirected or they will be accessible using the router. Let us say you are using some kind of Airtel internet service provider. What they do in their Airtel office, they will maintain multiple routers. Airtel office is in one network, and they will create a connection with the nearby internet service provider, so that whoever is using the Airtel internet, they are able to communicate with some other internet service provider like Jio. Like this, across the globe, all the networks are interconnected with each other. That is what exactly the internet means. Even the continents are connected using undersea cables. Do you know that? Undersea cables. And they will maintain multiple cables. If one cable got broken, they will use the other cable, like they use some kind of optical cables. By using the optical cables, we can transfer the data with high speeds. In the olden days, whenever we don't have the optical cable, they relied on the satellites or a normal LAN cable. We call it as a RJ45 cables. It has a different categories available like Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 7. That depends on the transfer speed, like 10 Mbps, 100 Mbps, 1 Gbps, 10 Gbps. But optical fiber cable will support lightning speed. The data can be transmitted with light speed because all the data will be converted into the light and then it will be transferred. So optical cable supports more data transfer speeds. So the router is a device which will establish or which will allow the communication across two different networks. So even in your office, there will be some kind of a routers and switches, routers, firewalls. Everything is the network administration team's responsibility. So this is how a typical data center looks like in an office. But now what they are doing is, if you see all these devices, if there are a server operating systems, right, or a servers, to maintain the physical hardware, you need to maintain a system administration team, right? And if there is a storage boxes, then you need to have a storage administrator. Some physical devices you have to maintain, and there is a chances that the physical devices might get fails at any time. So whenever you have multiple servers, they will maintain some spare servers, which might lead to excessive investment. And you need to maintain the power supply, like a redundant power supply, one power connection from the power corporation, and then you have to maintain some kind of UPS. Again, as an additional, you have to maintain some kind of a power generators. And to manage those devices, you need to maintain separate team. And for the network and networking, you have to maintain network administration team, right? So you have to maintain multiple and different teams to manage a simple infrastructure where there is a huge initial investment and there is a huge administrative efforts, especially the hardware management. What is a hardware? What is a hardware? Physical devices or a physical components, storage, server, CPU, memory, these all are called as a hardware. Now, when this cloud computing came into the picture, what they are doing is, instead of maintaining all these servers in the office, they are taking the advantage of the cloud and they are creating the same kind of a infrastructure in the cloud. They can create the network, they can create multiple servers, they can create the switch, or they can create directory servers, they can create the firewalls, they can create the routers, route tables, routes. They can do anything as per the requirement. But the advantage is no need to invest huge amount to purchase the servers. And if you need 10 new servers by tomorrow, in the cloud computing, that is just within couple of minutes you can get. But in your office, if you need 10 new servers, first we have to get the quotation from multiple vendors, and then you have to raise some kind of a purchase order, and then the servers will be delivered in 3 to 4 weeks. Minimum you have to wait 3 to 4 weeks. But in the cloud, you can get all your servers with just in a few clicks and few couple of minutes. And the hardware management, we are not responsible. Cloud will provide you the hardware management. They will take care of the entire hardware, reliability of the hardware, high availability of the hardware. Almost we can reduce 50% of the administrative efforts while you are maintaining your data center in the cloud. Maintaining the data center is not only the job. The security is most important, right? Just I have give you very few services, but if you take the real-time scenario, you have to maintain users, right? And you have to maintain some databases. You have to maintain some application servers. And for the application servers, you have to maintain some kind of load balancers. And we need to take care of high performance in terms of automatic scaling, like increasing the resources, decreasing the resources according to the load, right? So everything is available in the cloud, including the security of the cloud, security of the servers, security of the database, and security for your data. Let us say I stored my data in the cloud. Let us say the hard disk got stolen by someone, which is not possible. Just assume that. Then your data is not secure, right? Anybody can see your data. For that, they will use the concept of encryption. Do you guys know what is the encryption? What exactly the encryption is? Without knowing about the encryption, every day we are using that encryption. There are two types of encryptions available: in transit and data at rest encryption. Let us go back to the previous example of the Gmail. So whenever you try to log into the Gmail, you will enter your email ID and password, right? And that email ID and password will be transferred from your laptop to the Google server. Is that correct? Right? So that if someone is trying to capture the data, like if you are sending the username and password, that details will be transmitted in the form of data packets, right? If someone is able to capture the data packets, they can see the data. Simple thing, let us say phone tapping. Anybody can see, anybody can hear, right? In the olden days, whenever you have a landlines, that is very easy. Just you have to use a wire and you can connect directly to the cable and you can hear whatever they can speak. So here, to secure the data, whatever you are sending from the browser, they are using in-transit encryption. Whatever the data is transmitting from the browser, that will be encrypted. Encryption means the data will be converted from one format to other format. I will give a simple example. Let us say I would like to send you a number called 5. If I send a 5 in the message and someone has seen that message and they can read that the value is 5. What if I add some random number to the number 5, some random number, and if I send it to you, they can see something else. Let us say I added 3 and I send as a 8. So the unauthorized people can think that the actual value will be 8. But you and me know that the actual value we will get if I subtract 3 from the given number. So the value, the data will be converted into a different format using some kind of an algorithm. Nobody knows the algorithm. So how to know that whatever the data we are sending using the browser will be transmitted in a secure way. This is the website, aws.amazon.com, or you can go to gmail.com also, and you can see a small lock symbol, right? Which is a HTTPS. Nowadays, every website is running on HTTPS. Yes, for secure. That means they will maintain the data or the websites using an SSL certificate. They do have some certificates called SSL certificate, secure socket layer. Whatever the data transmitted from this browser will be encrypted using that SSL certificate. Let us say Gmail. So the browser certificate will encrypt the data and the data will be transmitted to the Gmail server. And the Gmail server knows the algorithm on by using which algorithm the data got encrypted. So automatically they can decrypt the password or they decrypt the data, and they can validate whether you are providing the correct credentials or not. So everything is our responsibility. Amazon will provide all these features and we have to use it in an effective way. When to enable the in-transit encryption, when to enable data at rest encryption, and how can we secure your Amazon accounts, and which user need access to the which server, which user requires access to which service. Everything we need to decide. If you don't use those things properly, your account will be at risk. So whatever we can maintain in the offices, that we can, the same thing we can do in the cloud also. The same thing we can do in the cloud also. That is what exactly we are going to learn in the AWS, Amazon Web Services Certified Solutions Architect. That is the career path we are going to discuss in the entire sessions. Okay, so from tomorrow onwards, we will start the cloud computing introduction, because there are different types of cloud platforms available, different types of different categories of clouds are there. We need to discuss about how they will work, what are the advantages, right? So tomorrow we can discuss about the basics of the cloud, and then the day after tomorrow on the next class, we can start the basics of Amazon Web Services. Then we will start discussing our actual services. So the next two sessions will be the introduction to the cloud computing and the Amazon Web Services. The next two sessions. Mostly the next session, like not tomorrow, after that, the second session, we will discuss about the introduction to the Amazon, and we will create our free tier account also, which we are going to use for the practicals. Okay, right. So before closing the session, if you guys have any questions regarding the AWS or technical related things, you can ask me. And whatever the topics we are going to discuss in the AWS sessions, every topic, almost every topic is a practical oriented. Every topic will be the practical. So first thing is a free tier account. We will discuss about the features of that, and then we can see how to create. Then the next topic will be identity access management. Okay, identity access management, where we need to create the users, groups, policies, and roles. We will cover the theoretical part, like different types of a users and when to use what type of a user, and then we can start creating the users. And there is a concept called policies, by using which we have to provide the permissions, right? So we will create the users with different types of a permissions, like one user can read the data, one user can read and write the data, or one user can read the data on a specific service only. Like we will try different situations and different use cases, and we will implement them practically. Every topic, first we will discuss the theory, and then we can get into the practicals. Without doing the practicals, there is no use of the theory. Just you can get only 10% of the knowledge with the theory. Once we do the practicals, then only you get the clarity on that. Okay, right. Okay, so like, is it like what are, I think there are different certifications available. Like one is a practitioner certification, entry level, then associate, then professional level, then specialty level. Is there any minimum requirement that do we need to pass the practitioner level to go with the associate level? No. But earlier we used to have those kind of a requirement. Without completing the associate level, we cannot go for the professional level. But now directly you can go for the specialty level. There is no restrictions and anything. Okay, right. And so like by using these sessions, once we complete these sessions, you will get a knowledge like the person who already has like 2 to 3 years of experience, whatever they know, that kind of a knowledge you can get. Yeah. After completing this course, yes, you can attend the exam. Solutions architect associate level. Associate level, yes. Next one will be the professional level. I think in the tomorrow's session, once we are done with the cloud computing, in the AWS introduction, I will show you the different certification paths. Okay, solutions architect, we have two levels. One is associate and one is a professional. Directly, you can go for the professional also, but the certification questions will be tricky. There will be some kind of a troubleshooting questions, which definitely requires a real-time experience. Associate level, right? Because right now in the market, the associate level, like solutions architect, associate level certificate has more demand as of now. Okay, right. So if you compare the AWS and Azure, which one will be the good? Okay, so in the next coming few years, out of these two, any cloud technology is going to disappear, like AWS or Azure is going to shut down, or they will be faded out from the market. Any doubts like that? No, because AWS itself is having a market capture of more than 50%. Like as per the 2019's before COVID, as per the 2019's Gartner's report, AWS has a 52 or 54% of market share, and Azure is having 25% of the market share. And Azure is going to increase the market share, and these two will be the leaders. Google Cloud, as of now, you can take that for least priority. As of now, might be in the future that will join into these two's club also. We cannot guess, but no cloud provider, especially these two, will never disappear in the next coming few years. I mean, not few years, in the next coming few decades, because they do have what we call that, a huge market share. They have a lot of customers. Do you guys know like why Amazon is having that much market share? Because Amazon is in the market since 2006. Officially, they launched in 2006 for the public. Internally, they launched in 2004. At that time, there is no Azure, there is no Google Cloud, right? So most of the people already started using that AWS. Whenever most of the people are using it, there will be a huge community help will be available. If you see, there is a new tool available in the market. You don't get help from the community because there are very few people who has some knowledge on that. So you don't get any answers for your questions in the community forums or blogs. Whenever you have a huge community, automatically more people will interest to adopt it. That is the main reason. And the Azure is the best one to deploy Windows applications. Windows-based applications like .NET applications. Azure is the best to deploy that Windows-based applications like .NET applications and everything. But coming to the AWS, in the AWS, you have a wide variety of services. If you observe in the AWS, even you can get the blockchain technology, you can get the artificial intelligence, machine learning is available. Anything is available in the AWS. And AWS is the only, the only cloud provider who is providing you the fastest CPU in the cloud. If you compare the fastest CPUs across AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, AWS will be in the top because they are in the market since like 2006. So every year they will announce new services. Every few years they will announce new features or new options to the existing services. Okay. And we will discuss like what are the actual advantages of the AWS in the introduction, like on what basis you will be charged and what kind of security will be provided by, because security is not only your responsibility. Some security will be taken care by Amazon and some security you have to take care. And like the geo location independent services, there are a lot of advantages. We can discuss all the things in detail. And one more thing, do we need to have any prerequisites to learn AWS? Not required, because whatever the basics we need, that we are going to cover. And just basic understanding about the computer, like how to use it, that is more than enough. And we don't use any coding. No need of a Java, .NET, Python, not required. But if you have interest, you can learn. That will be an added advantage. But we never use such coding or languages in the AWS. The only thing we use is a JSON. Even that also we don't write. There is a visual editor. We have to select the permissions. Automatically, the script will be generated. That we will use. The JSON is a simple English statements. Even we don't write it. There is an editor available. You have to select what permissions you need, and you have to click on that so that the script will be automatically generated. And then we will copy paste it. Apart from that, no coding skills required. Okay. Most of the time, I will get a question like, I'm not from like a non-IT background. Can we survive? Non-IT, like in your graduation or in your masters, you are not from the computers. You are from like in your BTech, you might be from ECE, triple E, mechanical or something, right? So can we survive? Yes, because I completed my graduation in triple E, nowhere related to the computers. But based on like how much you can learn, how much you are interested to learn, based on that you can understand easily. And the main advantage with the AWS is completely, this is like browser based. We don't use any commands or anything else, right? So that will be very easy to understand if you start doing the practicals from the day one. If you don't do the practicals, you cannot understand anything. I mean, it looks like you know everything, but after 1 week or so, you might not be able to recollect what you have learned in the last week. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes, I will show you the practicals. So we have a lab in the other building. So there is a Reliance Fresh, right? There is we do have a lab there. So yes, you can. There is a mentors also available. And if you have still, if you have any questions, like you can ask me, no issues. I will help you like before the class, or even we are going to maintain a Telegram group. So even there also you can ask the questions. Okay. Yeah. That you have to check with the Rajesh. I think you can find Rajesh there. You can check with Rajesh about the videos. Yeah, that you have to check with the admin. Okay. I recommend to write down the notes, but I will give you the whatever we discussed, that I will give you. But if you write down in your own words, that will be helpful for you, like a kind of a quick note or something, a quick points. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? And what are the topics we are going to cover? Right. Yesterday I gave you the list, right? So that we will share over the email. Okay. I think you guys provided your email address, right? You will receive the PDF document that what are the topics we are going to cover. Okay. And even we will cover some of the DevOps tools, not all, because there is, again, DevOps is a kind of, again, 60 days course. Just I will give you the overview of all the topics and what is the use case. Up to that, I can help. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so if you guys are clear, let us stop the session here. And also I'm getting some questions like, what will happen if the cloud data center goes down? Because Amazon's responsibility is high availability, right? That you guys will know in the global infrastructure session. That I will let you know, like how they will maintain the infrastructure, how they will make sure that all your servers will be up and running all the time. That we will cover in the AWS global infrastructure. There we will use some terms called regions, availability zones, edge locations. Okay. In that session, you will get the clarity. Okay. If you are clear, you guys can leave. If you have any questions, you can wait. No, yesterday just I gave you the overview of the topics, whatever we are going to cover. That overview I have given in the last class. But the first few sessions, they will give you the link also. If you miss the demo session, they will give you the link.